adventure. And I'm here to talk about my book and little bit about the background of it and how it came to be. And I was a outdoor rec major in college, and I learned, all about outdoor leadership and backpacking expeditions with groups, and all about the latest gear, all of the gear and the techniques and the industry standard everything. And then later on, I developed a health condition, and um, I realized that my backpacking gear was toxic, and also I was sick and I couldn't use my current outdoor gear. And I felt like I had never found a way to really feel comfortable on my trips in nature, camping out, hiking and things. And then I stumbled upon, pardon the pun, ancestral health, or the paleo lifestyle and diet. And that was the first time in many years that whenever I started practicing that I was able to regain my health and feel strong again. So then I was thinking about going outdoors and doing my backpacking trips again. However, there was some problems because how would I take my new discoveries that had brought my health and into nature, because my previous way of doing it wasn't paleo, wasn't ancestral health at all. In fact, it was kind of part of the problem of how I got sick in the first place was just depletion, toxicity, and not able to recover from workouts due to improper nutrition and things like that. And so I was like, I had to rethink the whole thing, everything I was taking with me, what kind of food was I gonna eat. Ancestral health is all about, proteins and fats and healthy grass-fed, humanely raised animal foods, and like, how do you take that? Well, that's what this book was written. It was my journey of discovery of how to bring the right foods and the right equipment and gear, and create a healthy adventure where you're actually feeling stronger and more recuperated than you are depleted and come back kind of like worn out, and you have to recover from the trip. I mean, I'm all about pushing, having goals and challenges and pushing myself in different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, and things like that. But, I don't want to push so far that it's just not even sustainable. I mean, I want to push and become stronger from it and healthier from it. So I had to learn a lot. I mean, there's a lot, and it's all in this book about the science behind circadian rhythm balancing, and how grounding affects us, and barefoot walking, mobility, and primal movement, so that we're moving the way our ancestors did, the way the body is naturally meant to move. There's a whole lot of things that we are practicing in our lifestyle that's called over domestication. The reason why the paleo movement even came about was because people became over domesticated and forgot how to connect with the body, with our body, and with nature. And so the rewilding movement and ancestral health and paleo and primal, all of these recent movements since the past 20 years are bringing back the knowledge of how to actually be in our body, moving the right way, that's healthy and efficient. And well, how did we forget that? How did we forget how to walk, how to move, how to crawl, how to get up and down off the ground? Because we stopped doing it. Use it or lose it. Everything was about cars, getting in your car, going somewhere. It got to a point where we didn't really have to walk to get anywhere or do anything to do anything. Everything was done by machines and push button society, and wireless. So well, how do you get that back? That's what the whole rewilding movement is about. And so that's all well and good. What the rewilding movement still was going backpacking and bringing toxic gear that isn't really helping your body to regulate its heartbeat and its temperature and its moisture, and breathe the fresh air. It ended up like we end up zipping ourselves in 3 layers of plastic. We wear synthetic clothing, and we have synthetic sleeping bag, and then we have a synthetic tent inside that. So we're in 3 layers of plastic, and we're going out to nature to try to rewild. That is not rewilding. Rewilding is wearing natural fibers and having an open air tent so air can flow through, so you get the negative ions. So well, how do you do that? Well, it took me about, I don't know, maybe 12 years to figure it out. I had the idea when I noticed that we're not doing this, that there's something really, a big cognitive dissonance between how we go in nature and our values and ideals for ancestral health. And they're 2 different things. We're bringing our outdated conditioning that's over domesticated practices into nature, and that's not building health and vitality. So what I did was I spent, several years like living outdoors in a teepee, part-time in a teepee and part-time just in a canvas tent that I made, and thinking about it like a lot, just deeply thinking like, how can I make all my gear work like this with these principles and grounding and circadian rhythms, so it took me one step at a time. I kind of put together a set of gear that was very rudimentary, and it worked. I mean, it worked. It wasn't like pretty and it wasn't super light yet, but it actually worked. And I just took that idea and I just kept with it, and I kept working on it and learning more. And I couldn't write this book yet because I was figuring it out, and I journaled a lot about my journey, my experiences as I was going along, and I figured out one by one, how to construct different things like a sleeping bag, and then like clothing, the different layers of clothing you need for outdoor adventure and living, and then a tent that has open air, and backpack. Here's my backpack, and little by little, eventually after 8 years now, Lucky Sheep now has everything that you need, or not. We don't make everything, but we have a sleeping bag and a backpack and a rain parka, all completely non-synthetic, no plastic, and made with natural things from the earth that allow your body to breathe and regulate its energy and its electricity and its grounding, and a rain parka coated with beeswax. I mean, Lucky Sheep has reinvented like backpacking in a new way with natural fibers. I mean, we're the only company doing it. But this book it's not about the company, the products. This book is all about the whole system of paleo primal backpacking, rewilding, going back to nature the way we're actually a part of nature, and we're not just some kind of like technological robot that just kind of like came out of the city and thought we'd like walk around in the woods for the weekend and then go back. I mean, this book is how to deeply connect with your body and your soul, and really, understand how science works, how we're connected to the energy, the electricity of the earth, and also, kind of the cosmos even. So I'm going to read a little bit from the book, and well, anyway, that's why it took so many years. It took 8 years of writing the book before I could finish it because I didn't have everything figured out yet. And a lot of the things that I wanted to work actually didn't work, like yet. I mean, I didn't know for sure they were going to work. Some things, like the rain park, was kind of the final thing for me, and like how to like protect yourself from the rain without synthetics that are smothering, and you get sweaty and then clammy inside and stuff often. So okay, so I'm going to read from this before it gets too dark here. I'm in a really nice place by breathing the negative ions from this creek. This is like one of my little camps right near my home, actually, that I hike to and a lot. And a lot of my early experimenting was done here. So this is a special spot, sacred spot for me to launch the book. Okay, so I'm just going to start read from the introduction and give you a taste of what's inside here. Okay. How I discovered forest bathing and natural fibers. Years ago, I was hiking barefoot up a mountain trail with a friend, sharing my crazy idea to reinvent backpacking gear to align with the philosophy of barefoot walking. There was something different about this hike than most of my previous hikes. I was not wearing shoes, and I was seeing how far I could take it. I was breaking a fundamental rule from my outdoor leadership training to always wear sturdy boots to protect my feet. But walking barefoot was reawakening my connection to earth. This was during the beginning of the rewilding movement, and people were waking up to the need to connect to earth in a new way. I was grounding myself, realigning my circadian rhythms, expanding my resilience to cold mountain streams, and most importantly, healing from 20 years of multiple chemical sensitivities. I began wondering how many other outdoor practices could I adapt to this philosophy? The birth of a new outdoor philosophy. What first led me down this path was my struggle with autoimmune dysfunction and multiple chemical sensitivities. I discovered I was allergic to modern backpacking gear, tents, sleeping bags, and synthetic materials loaded with chemicals. In my mind, I envisioned an entire camping setup made from organic fibers. There was just one problem. I didn't know how to sew. Over the next decade, I experimented with natural fiber fabrics, tested different designs, and eventually I invented a full line of natural outdoor gear, what is now the Lucky Sheep brand. But my journey wasn't just about creating gear. It was about rediscovering a way of being in nature. Healing through nature. In those early days, my sensitivities were so extreme that even the natural mold in the forest triggered reactions. But after years of following a primal paleo diet and eliminating toxins from my home, my body grew stronger. Eventually, I could sleep outside again without reacting. That's when I began my experiments, crafting an organic canvas tent coated with beeswax and a wool sleeping bag. Equipped with a few days' worth of fresh paleo food, I set off into the Smoky Mountains and Pisgah National Forest, searching for healing sanctuaries by water in western North Carolina. The routine was simple but profound. Sleep deeply in the fresh mountain air. Wake up and bathe in the cold creek. Sunbathe on warm rocks. Hike, eat, rest, swim, and repeat. It felt like I had discovered the fountain of youth, a synergy between earth, sun, and nature that was bringing me back to life. When I returned from these trips, I would tell my friends, sounding like a madman, but some were intrigued and eager to learn my methods. The spiritual awakening of forest bathing. My journey wasn't just physical, it was also deeply spiritual and emotional. As I immersed myself in the wilderness, I realized that forest bathing had long been a part of ancient yogic practices. Seekers throughout history have retreated into nature to break through mental and spiritual barriers and access higher states of consciousness. For me, being near a moving creek or waterfall became a portal to something beyond my everyday awareness. The smells, the rushing water on my skin, the sun dissolving my stress, all of it combined into an alchemy of healing. My meditation deepened, my mind expanded, and I experienced moments of pure, causeless joy and bliss. There was something so different than my previous hiking and camping experiences, which were more of a mental approach and using the herd mentality of the outdoor community with set belief systems and dogma. Here, I was truly breaking free to be myself and follow my intuition. I could hear an inner voice that wasn't audible in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. An early experience with failure of modern gear. Years before the just mentioned experience, I went on a winter backpacking trip in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, hiking the leafless, tree-covered trail up to Mount LeConte. Little did I know what I was getting into and where it would lead. A buddy came with me the first day and night. We crossed a few ice-cold creeks barefoot, taking off boots and rolling up pant legs. My friend then turned back as planned. I was to continue a couple more nights on my own following the Appalachian Trail. At some point near the top of the mountain, where the trail intersected the Appalachian Trail, I lost the trail. I walked for a time under the bare branches and silent gray sky, not knowing exactly where I was. Even though I had spent nights, many nights, camping and backpacking and was proficient in topographical map navigation, I was a little worried since I was simply dead reckoning my way to the top of the mountain in a very remote wilderness. I managed to make it to the Appalachian Trail right before dark. I made an emergency camp and after a simple meal, fell asleep. I woke up the next day and discovered that I was sweating in my sleeping bag. To my surprise, the landscape had transformed overnight. Everything was covered in snow, and apparently the tent had piled with snow that had then sagged down to my body. I was overheating because the snow added insulation similar to an igloo, and the synthetic clothing and sleeping bag would not allow proper ventilation of my body heat. I packed up and hiked along the trail to the first trail shelter, where I hung up my gear so it could dry in the cold wind and sun. I had gotten wet from overheating in my synthetic gear, then cold from being wet in the cold and wind. Then I packed up again to continue. Unfortunately, however, after I had hiked for a full day through the snow and cold winds, damp and sweaty, as well as having walked through icy creeks the day before, I just didn't feel like I could go on. I felt depleted and chilled. I had maxed out, gone to my edge, and spent my reserves. I decided to hitchhike to the nearest town, Bryson City, and call my buddy to come pick me up. There had to be a better way. Someday I would discover not only how to build my body up to match the elements and eat food that would generate body heat, but also how to use techniques and gear that would work with the changing conditions of outdoor adventure. All these discoveries ended up revolutionizing my approach to the outdoors and my relationship to the elements. I have long been an outdoor gear nut, trying every latest technological invention and following the dominant paradigm about what kind of gear works the best. I majored in outdoor recreation in college, and I took a Wilderness Education Association outdoor leadership training with Dr. Paul Petzold. Petzold is the founder of NOLES, Outward Bound and Wilderness Education Association, and is known as the grandfather of outdoor leadership. During the 1990s, I published a zine called Kokopelli Notes, Walking and Biking for a Greener Planet, which aimed to encourage people to integrate the outdoor lifestyle into their everyday lives. This experience gave me a taste of a lot of the latest gear and inventions both in the biking and hiking worlds. Later, I developed a debilitating illness called multiple chemical sensitivities, which made me allergic to many things I had previously taken for granted. Harmful chemicals are ubiquitous in our modern world and challenging to escape. I spent the next decade learning how to eliminate plastic in my home, go organic with my clothing, bedding, furniture, household cleaners, and personal hygiene items, and detox my body. I was also learning about barefoot walking, earthing, raw paleo diet, primal diet, sun gazing, cold plunging, and things that later became known collectively as rewilding. These practices opened up a whole new world for me, and my health started coming back. I was thawing out from a decade of decline. The funny thing is, my outdoor gear, which was supposed to get me closer to nature, was still the most toxic, unnatural thing left in my belongings. Determined to find a solution, I embarked on a quest for the perfect backpacking adventure. Frustratingly, I would always come home from a few days in the woods feeling exhausted and depleted. Something wasn't right. Going into nature with all the health benefits it can offer just wasn't proving itself to be the health spa experience I knew it could be. How could I increase my vitality and have gains in homeostasis and fitness as a result of going into nature, rather than experiencing depletion and losses in homeostasis and fitness? How could I come home feeling like I had a nice workout, but without needing days to recover? Upon discovering the paleo diet, I experienced a new relationship with the elements. Now, when exposing myself to the forces of nature, such as the ground, sun, cold water, and physical exertion, I started to feel good. Before this, I had always been cold and not nearly as rugged and robust as I wanted to be to withstand the rigors of the outdoors. But with the new diet, I experienced new gains in lean body mass, strength, endurance, as well as the ability to sleep well and feel grounded and at ease even in stressful situations. During this process, I also discovered a major difference between synthetic versus natural fiber clothing and bedding. People were discovering the power of wool to outperform its synthetic counterparts, keeping metabolism and sleep at their optimal levels and keeping the body dry in harsh outdoor environments. I noticed that I slept so much better with wool, and in fact had never actually felt truly warm when I was using down and synthetic. I experimented with living in a teepee year-round, using only natural fibers, which was my attempt to test out the entire paleo lifestyle and see what it would do. I ended up becoming even stronger and more robust, as well as developing a new relationship with the outdoors. I felt I could go anywhere at any time of year and feel far more comfortable than when I was following the herd mentality of consuming grain-based food and using synthetic gear, acting in accordance with other people's opinions. I pieced together a set of backpacking gear from scraps of fabric and wool clothing found at thrift stores. Tested it for several years and realized at one point that I had invented a new backpacking style. This approach is based on replicating our ancestral heritage as much as possible. It allows us to enter nature with a new set of gear, techniques, and consciousness. This book will explain my process of discovery, as well as break down my backpacking system into an organized set of principles that you can easily adopt to your life. Thank you for listening.